It's showtime.
We get my AJ Brown on.
What's up, good people? And welcome to the Frank Harris Show, the biggest, the baddest, and the best show on earth. And look who we have today. AJ Brown is in the building. oh, that's Dominican E. All right, E. So I'm not gonna throw you the ball today. So I'm just gonna talk the whole show. You understand what I'm saying? So you can read your book like AJ Brown did. And maybe you can finally win one of our debates and win your Super Bowl. And maybe you can finally win your Super Bowl.
Yeah, what's going on, Frank? What's going on?
E, what's up, E?
Ain't much, man.
What's up, E?
A lot of stuff going on, man. Sports world it's a lot of stuff going on right now in the sports world.
Yes, E. So, E, I got to talk about a controversial topic. It's a little controversial, okay? So, your Chiefs lost to my Eagles, right? I told you the Eagles were going to win. Your Chiefs, right, E?
Oh, man.
And E, now the question is this, E. I got a question, E. Outside of the realm of football, it seems when these athletes date famous ladies, right? Or they step in the spotlight, right? And they have so much extracurricular activity outside of their sport, it adversely impacts how they play. If you look at the greats, okay, you don't know very much about their wives, their lives. They're not trying to be at every event. They're not trying to be at the spotlight, right? And you look at Kansas City Chiefs, Mahomes and his wife, she trying to be a celebrity, a superstar. We know that, right? She's trying to be a star. She's so boisterous. They're at the U.S. Open with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and the Swifties. Kelce's play has gone like this since he's been with Taylor Swift as well. He's on tour in the U.K., right? Russell Wilson's players went like this, right? Since the Sierra dynamic. I asked Eric, does that impact players? When you look at guys like Brady, let me just say this. Brady was married to a supermodel, right? But you never really saw or heard very much about that. He was about football, only football. He wasn't trying to be at every event, trying to do every appearance, et cetera, et cetera. So I ask you, E, Michael Jordan wasn't like that either, another GOAT, right? As Mahomes is chasing GOAT greatness, okay? Do all these distractions impact players, E?
No,
Tell me, E.
No, I don't think so, Frank. I mean, there's a lot of great players that dated, celebrity women, and that didn't impact their play. Derek Jeter was dating, what's her name, Mariah Carey at one point. I mean, there's a lot.
No, married, Eric. You're talking about, well, Kelsey's not married, but Russell Wilson is married. So is Mahomes, trying to do all the other stuff. But okay, Jeter was one.
But Frank, listen, there's a lot of guys that date celebrity women or marry celebrity women. I don't think impacts their play. I mean, listen. Look at my man Rodman. Rodman was dating, all these famous women, and Madonna.
Not really, Eric. Not really. I mean, and by the way, Eric, we talking about chasing the greats of greats, right? Rodman was a very specific silo role player, right? He had a role, great rebounder, but like he wasn't the guy leading the team. I mean, his job was just to come and get some rebounds.
He became a Hall of Famer just doing that, Frank. So
I get that, Eric, but the responsibility of Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and even Kelsey's relatively similar. But Kelsey's play has significantly declined. But you bring up some good examples, E, I got to say. But let me say this. Rodman also dated famous women for short stretches, right?
Yeah.
Short stretches. Jeter ended up marrying not a famous woman. Fair enough?
Yeah. But I'm just saying,
okay.
I don't think it impacts that.
But he performed decently when he was dating a lot of those girls. That's fair.
I mean,
but Eric, let me ask you a question.
What about, I don't know if A-Rod was dating Jennifer Lopez at the time. I don't know if he was still playing.
He was not. Okay. He was not. That was after he finished playing. Okay. And Eric, but what about this though? Okay. So guys do date these women, but I don't want to just blame it on the women, first of all. But Eric, but I also minus the women themselves. But even minus the women themselves, I ask you this question. Okay. What happens when play? Because it was a two-pronged question I was asking about dating these women that want the spotlight, but also them also relishing the spotlight. Like Russell Wilson now is at every event when he's with Sierra. It wasn't like that before, right? Kelce is all over now with Taylor Swift from time to time, on tour with her at the U.S. Open with their funny outfits on, right? Same thing with Mahomes and his wife, right? They're a little bit more out in the public eye. I ask you, Eric, as good as Jeter was, right? And Jeter was partying in New York to a degree, but he wasn't everywhere, at every event, at every situation, like a Russell Wilson is, like a Sierra is, like a
what about a Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union? I mean, I didn't think it affected. I mean, it was in his
yeah, but he
tail
was
end of his career. It was tail end of his career, but
Eric. He wasn't dating or married her when he was winning championships with the
that's what I'm saying. He was in his tail
with
end of
what do you
his
call it?
career, but he was still married to her. And then
And by the way, and his career did what? Whoop, nosedive.
that's when he was old, Frank. Come on, he was old, Frank. Come on.
Well, you brought that example up, right? I mean, he wasn't great when he was with her. But minus the woman, blaming the woman, I don't want to do that. But what I'm saying, Eric, is the popularity to an event and going to do that and taking away and distracting away from the main purpose, right? If you look at Michael Jordan wasn't everywhere. He wasn't.
Yeah, he wasn't everywhere. I mean,
right, he wasn't. Right, Tom Brady wasn't everywhere, and Mahomes is chasing that kind of greatness. Is that fair?
Yes.
And look at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is another guy that's not everywhere. It's football, football, football.
That's right.
Right? And so you wonder. So you say the famous woman or woman trying to be famous, and hold on, but also the lifestyle that comes along with that, being at the U.S. Open, being at all these fancy events, and being involved in all this stuff. None of that matters.
Nah, Frank, because I mean, listen, what they do on their downtime is what they do on their downtime, Frank. I mean, people go out to the U.S. Open, people go out to the movies, people go out to see opera shows, Broadway shows. I mean, people do on their off time. That's on their off time, Frank. Let's not criticize these young men for who they date and stuff like that. Now their performance is going down. No.
I'm not criticizing them. I'm just saying that. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying, does it come at a cost where it impacts your career adversely? I'm not criticizing them. Everybody can do what they want to do. But anyway, let's get to the game, right? More talk about the game.
Yeah, let's get to
Great game. Psych.
Let's get to the
Psych. That's the worst Super Bowl I've ever seen before. Okay? Patrick Mahomes is terrible, right? I mean, he was terrible. Now, all of these guys talking about the greatest of all time debate ends right now because he played bad. It's amazing how much weight people put on one game, right? He's still a great quarterback and a great player, Eric, but he looked that Philly. And by the way, Philly didn't even blitz. That Philly defensive line was unreal, Eric.
I'm not going to say I told you so, Frank, but I kind of told you so, Frank. I'm not going to say it.
Eric, they didn't even blitz, and they had the guy under pressure all game. And then kudos to the offensive Kellen Moore, who's now going to be the head coach for the New Orleans Saints.
Yes.
What a game plan, Eric! If you watch them, they tricked the Chiefs as well. They came out throwing the football, Eric. Everybody thought it was going to be Saquon. They came out throwing the football. Okay,
Frank, let's not do that, Frank.
They came out doing that. It was genius. It was genius. And then they started to hand the ball up to Saquon. But they started out throwing the football, and that threw Kansas City for a loop. And then the turnovers. It was a terrible game.
Well, let me say this, and listen, kudos to Jalen Hurts. A guy that's been scrutinized his entire career. Listen, he's exemplifies what great young men and great work ethic. If you put those two together,
I'm with you on that.
You put those two together, you can become a winning quarterback in the NFL. And obviously he does put the work in. He's not distracted by anything. He's like a guy that doesn't really go out. You know what I'm saying? So kudos to him for just
that's championship demeanor.
An exceptional young man for that. And now, Frank, like I said in the previous show, I said to beat Kansas City, you have to put pressure on Mahomes, right? He had happy feet in the pocket. Once you start hitting,
I said, who doesn't know that?
Okay,
is that a genius take?
Hold on.
Who don't know that? To beat any team, you got to put pressure on the quarterback. Okay, duh.
I even referenced the New York Giants when they beat that great New England team, how they put pressure on the quarterback and they ran the ball. And it was the first half time of possession was lopsided. So they kept Mahomes off the field, plus the turnovers. Is winning football. Right?
But it was lopsided based upon the turnovers, Eric. Mahomes was throwing the ball to the wrong guys. He was throwing the ball to the guys in green.
Well, Frank, that comes with...
Eric, hold on. They were not controlling the time running the ball. They were scoring, throwing the football early on.
But if you look at the time...
Mahomes just kept throwing interceptions.
If you look at the time of possession...
They kept turning the ball over.
It was lopsided, Frank. If you look at the time of possession, it was lopsided. And they
because they kept turning the ball over, not because they were running the ball, Eric. It wasn't because they were running the football.
They did run the ball. The running was setting up the pass, Frank. That's what they were doing. The running was...
No. No, that's not true.
We knew they was going to stack the box. So if you
That's
get
not true.
3, 4, hit them with 3 yards, 4 yards consistently, now that brings the safety down, and now we went over the top. It's simple. It's simple.
Eric, they didn't run the ball early on. They did not run the ball early on. That's not true. And that time of possession is because Mahomes kept throwing the ball to the wrong guy. Early on in the football game, they were throwing the football, and then they went to the run. And by the way, the quarterback, right, Jalen Hurts, was such an effective runner as well.
Exactly.
Right? Saquon was great. But let's be clear. They started throwing the football, and the time of possession wasn't because the Eagles are running the football. The time of possession was because the Eagles, right, kept getting interceptions on your boy Mahomes that's partying too much now, and that's no longer taking football as seriously because he want to be with Taylor Swift and Kelsey, and his wife want to be a celebrity. But anyway, another story, E.
Yes.
But look, the Eagles look good. Now, question, next year, okay, if the Eagles look formidable. Who you got early on next year winning the Super Bowl? You going with the Eagles again?
I'm going Eagles and Bills this time. I'm going Eagles and Bills, and the Bills will host that trophy up next year. I'm going with the Bills.
Okay. Okay, that's a good. I'm going Ravens. I'm going Ravens.
Nah, the Ravens ain't.
Hey, I'm going Ravens and Cowboys. LOL, right? LOL. My team, the Cowboys. Nah, yeah, I'm going Ravens and Eagles, right? I mean, I think the Eagles are formidable. I think all those other teams, in the NFC are terrible. And I'm going Ravens winning the Super Bowl. The Ravens and Eagles. I mean, and my guy, Lamar, finally gets his ring.
I think Detroit will still be there. I think as teams, you have to go through these.
I think Detroit's going to take a step back, E, to be honest with you. I think Ben Johnson was a big deal. That guy was the best coordinator you can argue in football. Offensively. Spagnuolo is maybe the best on defense, but offensively, that guy was special.
Which is the guy that's going to the Jets?
Aaron Glenn was good too.
Aaron Glenn.
But I mean, but they won on the offensive side. I mean, Detroit's defense wasn't great. I mean, they were winning shootouts.
They lost Hutchinson, towards the end of the season. That was a big loss for them.
But I give you Glenn is a pretty big loss, but I think Ben Johnson was the best coordinator in football, arguably.
What happened to Eric Bieniemy?
This is an example, Eric, where guys should leave good alone as is. Let me tell you why. Bieniemy had a great situation when he was with the Chiefs. Yeah. Offensive coordinator. I get it that Andy Reid was calling the plays, whatever. He got upset about that, and he wasn't getting the credit that he wanted. And then he tried to get head coaching jobs. I don't think he interviewed well. I always told you that, right? Couldn't get a job. Then he decided to go to the Redskins, Eric, because he wanted to prove that he could call plays and win. That was a nightmare, okay? Then he went to UCLA, right, to be a college coach as a coordinator. That didn't work out. I mean, and now he's back in the NFL, I believe, somewhere. What a nightmare, bro. Listen, the guy should have stayed where he was. Listen, what a nightmare.
I think Eric Bieniemy's problem. I think he comes from that old school mentality, and I think he didn't adapt to these new kids and these new era of football. And I think he's hard on the players, and I think that was his downfall. He couldn't adjust to these new kids.
Eric, you can't say that's his downfall. You can't say that's his downfall because he did a great job at Kansas City, and he interviewed for every job and couldn't. Well, hold on. He interviewed for every job and couldn't get one. At that point, that wasn't the reason why he couldn't get a job. Is because he was too hard on players.
I mean, listen, they even when he was in Washington, they was talking about like how he berated the players, how he was too hard on the players and stuff.
But they didn't say that when he was in Kansas City.
I mean, he had what's my name? Andy Reid. We knew Andy Reid was the one calling.
So the point I'm making is, Eric, let me ask you a question. He goes from KC. He couldn't get a head coaching job after that. It couldn't have been because he didn't know how to handle younger players because he was coming from KC. Now, you could argue after he left KC and went to the Redskins, he probably went there with the arrogance of, I'm Bieniemy, I got Super Bowl rings, I just coached Mahomes. He probably went to Washington with that arrogance, and there was no offensive talent there. They never had a quarterback. But let me just say this, Eric. From KC to not getting a job, that's the question. Why couldn't he get a job after KC? It couldn't have been because he didn't adopt to the young players.
I mean,
That
like
can't
you
be the
said,
answer.
why he didn't interview well. I mean, there was, interview well. I mean, all that has to play the fact that why he
Eric,
didn't
Eric,
get.
Eric, Eric, Eric. For like 3 coaching cycles, he couldn't get a job. Year after year after year, he couldn't get a job.
Listen,
Multiple coaching cycles, at least 2.
Frank, there's a lot of stuff that intricate parts that played in him not getting hired. We know the color of his skin was one. Maybe him not being a good
Okay.
interviewer.
I mean, but let me say this. At that point, there were a lot of DEI hires. A lot of guys were getting jobs in the NFL at that time. Black guys.
Yeah, we can say that. We can say that. Yeah.
So anyway, so shout out to the Eagles. Good victory. So E.
I'm 2 for 2, Frank. I'm 2 for 2. Give me credit, Frank. I'm 2 for 2.
What else you 2 for 2 on? What else?
The Super Bowl. And
Yeah, you won that one.
And what about the Josh Allen in the Ravens game?
Who?
Josh Allen in the playoff game.
Oh, come on. You picking one game. Let's talk about big wins, bro. But okay. Yeah.
Big win. All right, Frank. I can
Now
never
you're
win.
hot.
Frank, I can never win.
Just so you like 2-15. You picked those 2, and I can name 15 you lost. All right, you got the Super Bowl. You got it. By the way, before we switch, Eric, the Eagles had the best team, but everybody just thought at some point the Mahomes magic would take over, but it never did. Right? So let's switch gears now. Let's talk about hoops. Okay.
What about the halftime show? That's halftime.
Okay, yeah, my bad. We want to talk about the halftime show for sure.
Yes.
So I'm gonna get your take on it because I have a lot of takes. So what do you think about the halftime show, E? Tell me your thoughts.
I think it was. I'll put it up there as probably one of the best halftime performances, in the Super Bowl history. I won't say it's number 1, but I put it up there in the top 10 maybe. You know what I mean? I mean, it was split. It was split. You had people that didn't understand, the message behind, the show. You had white America, split. But as far as urban culture and what it meant for urban culture, I think it was great. I think he sent a loud message to the people. I think it was phenomenal. Samuel L. Jackson came out. Serena Williams came out. I think it was exceptional performance for me. Being part of the culture, being part of, this hip hop culture, I think it was phenomenal for me.
Okay. So it's a multi-level conversation, right? So on one level, if you're a hip hop enthusiast, right, that's a part of the Drake and Kendrick battle, he slayed it. He slayed Drake from that perspective, right? I mean, that was the kill shot, right? That was obliterated him, all the things that he did around that, phenomenal cultural moments, Samuel Jackson, and he was speaking out saying that hip hop is too loud, right? It was a microcosm of how white America, I think, feels about urban culture.
Yes.
Hip hop is too loud, it's boisterous. And so he got all those messages across. So as, a black person who loves hip hop, that was a great performance. Okay. But the Super Bowl is watched by 126 million people, and the majority of those people are not black people. Okay. And so while it was great as it related to Drake and hip hop culture, I think when people see the Super Bowl, there's a certain level of pageantry that's expected, right? Set changes, performances, dancing from the artists or movement, instruments on stage, right? Pageantry. And I felt like it did lack that, okay? So while I did like it personally, if you look at it from a broader sense, I do believe that if you are white or Asian, or I don't want to say any other race of people who are not, super hip hop fans or even casual hip hop fans, it didn't land at all, right? At all. And so it minus from a racial perspective, but also, again, at the Super Bowl, Eric, that's supposed to be the greatest show that you see. The pageantry, people coming out the sky, artists all over the place. I thought it was some of that, but I didn't feel a lot of that. And by the way, Kendrick Lamar, man, he's stiff as can be, by the way. His movement was awkwardly bad, right? And this is why if you watch him, usually he's chill and the stuff is happening around him in his visuals, in his videos, in his performances. But cultural moment for hip hop, yes. Is it a win if I'm Goodell and I'm the Super Bowl, the head of the NFL and Super Bowl? Not really, right? Not a knockout performance like when Beyonce performs or when somebody it's a different world. or like when, you know, Michael Jackson performed. I mean, that's a hard standard, but just different. You know what I mean? So, but again, for hip hop, as a hip hop enthusiast, it was great.
But
Now, E, question.
what about the message,
Go
though?
ahead.
What about the message behind all the theatrical stuff that was going on? What about the message that was being displayed?
So let me ask you a question. What was Serena's message to you?
Oh no, that was a shot at Drake. That was a shot at Drake. That was that was a
So I
shot.
have a question. I have a question, which look, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be callous at all, right? But I believe Serena's sister, right,
Yes.
had and I don't want to say the word, but had an unfortunate downfall, right, as it related to some gang activity.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I don't understand how is she then glorified that to a degree by coming on the national stage, right, and doing what she did.
Well, it means she did get fined for that same dance at Wimbledon, right? I think she got fined for that.
And I don't understand, what are you at that point epitomizing culturally, and what are you proliferating?
Well, I mean,
I don't get that.
she's from Compton, right?
But what does that mean, though? But she done lived that lifestyle. And by the way, let me say this: people, have a lot of difficulty in life around that. So that's not something that you should be on TV glorifying, in my opinion. And especially when you have a platform like herself, and especially compounded by the fact that what happened to one of her sisters in relation to that. So I don't even know what that represented. Right? To me, that was silly.
Well,
But okay,
I just think. Listen, I just think that was a shot at Drake. I don't think that was anything other than that.
It doesn't matter. But that's not how you do it, though.
Coming out with Kendrick.
That's how you do it.
Coming out with
By
Kendrick.
glorifying that, that's not how you do it. There's other ways you could have done that. You could have came up there and done something else, but that wasn't the answer. But okay, the other stuff, Samuel L. Jackson symbolically was great, right?
Yeah.
What he represented, what he was. Listen, as a hip hop enthusiast, but I'm just taking a step out of that role, and you're looking at overall. The Super Bowl is for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just for us. And so if you look at it from that perspective, most of the time when you see these performances, right, it's for everybody. That wasn't for everybody.
Listen, I mean, I just love the message behind the show, right? I mean, how he had the flag and it was split, and then he had the PlayStation, the game board, how all the hidden messages behind the show. That's what I really enjoyed.
Right? So let me ask you a question. So the average middle-aged white man, or male or female, right, that's watching it, do you think they get all that?
No, they didn't get it. That was the point.
Right. And so it's like, that's great. And that's subtle. And by the way, I don't want to get into politics at all. So let me not talk about that, because that's always an issue when you talk about that. But anyway, it is what it is. So E, let's switch gears now and talk basketball.
Let's do it.
Okay. So frantic trades. The first one on tap. Let's talk about Luca Doncic. Luca Doncic to the Lakers. The biggest blockbuster trade we've probably seen, where a player gets traded, a high-level player. I guess, didn't Shaq get traded? I believe Shaq got traded from the Lakers at some point. So that was a big seismic trade.
Yes.
Big seismic trade. But Luca getting traded right at this point in his career, prime player, 25 years old, one of the top players in the NBA. I don't think he's a top 5 player. I think it's a joke to say he's a top 5 player in the NBA personally, because the guy plays no defense at all. But anyway, and I think that trade is overrated for the Lakers, right? I don't think Luca epitomizes any of what the Laker leaders have epitomized in the past. From Magic, right? If you look at the genealogy of Laker greatness, Magic got great every year, was competing against Bird, the level of competitor he was, how hard he played, what he did on the court, right? He started, in my opinion, him and Kareem, but Magic was the face. Then you go from him to Kobe, who's the Mamba mentality, tough, works hard, plays both ends of the floor. We haven't seen a player like Kobe as it relates to work ethic, etc. And then now you pass the mantle from there to LeBron, who we know notoriously is a guy who takes care of his body. He takes the game very seriously. He honors the game by doing that. You can say what you want to say about LeBron James, whether he's soft or not soft, or whether he's this or that, but the guy takes the game very, very seriously, plays both ends of the court. He has great leadership. So from Magic to Kobe to LeBron, and now Luca epitomizes none of that. The guy comes in, the guy's 40 pounds out of shape every time he comes into the season. He's hurt quite often because he's out of shape. He plays his way into shape. He's the worst defensive player in the NBA. I think I've said that before. I think he's literally the worst defensive player in the NBA. And so I just don't think that he really epitomizes the greatness in the leadership the Laker greats have been. Now, let's see what they add in conjunction with him, Eric. But him currently leading the Lakers into this next, this next phase of Laker greatness, I don't see him being that guy.
To Luca's defense, I think, for the Lakers, I think.
Well, there's no Luca defense. so he don't play no defense. But anyway, I understand your point.
Listen.
Go ahead.
Again, I think the trade had to happen, right? Because as we move on from LeBron's era, now we have to bring another superstar in, right? He's a top 5 guy in the NBA. And the Lakers are known for, bringing in the big name players. So that, from that aspect, I think it was a hit for the Lakers. Now for Luca, to come in there and fill the leadership role, I think you have to add another piece to that. I think, he's a guy, from Europe. He doesn't come in with that, mindset.
No, whoa, hold on. I got to pause you there. Antetokounmpo's from Europe too. He's a leader. Don't say Jokic is from Europe too. Don't say a guy is not a leader. Jokic is the leader on his team, and he won a championship, and Antetokounmpo was as well. So that's very unfair to say a guy can't be a leader.
I said the different mentality. You know what I'm saying?
But he's European as well. So don't say because he's from Europe he can't lead.
I mean, Europeans have a different mindset when it comes to leadership and all that stuff.
Why? I just gave you 2 examples. The 2 best players in the NBA, 2 of the best players in the NBA are European, and they lead their team. I mean, we got to stop doing that. Europeans can lead their team just like Americans can.
Look.
I don't know what that means.
Hold on. Right? Look at each one of those guys' career. Those guys came from the mud. Antetokounmpo came from the mud. Nobody expected him to do what he's doing in the NBA. And Jokic the same way. He came from the mud. Nobody expected him to do what he's doing. This guy was. Hold on.
Well, hold on.
Luca was, the wonder kid. The wonder kid. 17-year-old playing in ACB in France and in Spain. He was the wonder kid. So now you thrust him into that role. He probably doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah, but hold on. But what does being the wonder kid means that he can't lead? I'm confused. A lot of guys are wonder kids that become great players. LeBron James is a wonder kid. He's a leader. Just because a guy's a wonder kid that people have.
He's a wonder kid from a different country, Frank. He's a wonder kid from a different country. He's never been
exposed. What does that mean, Eric?
Never been exposed. Everybody never been exposed to this type of role. This
type of what role?
Leadership role. Like that, be able to,
Why not? As a wonder kid from a country, Slovenian national team player, leader of the Slovenian national team. And by the way, for the record, people from men and women from that side of the world, right? The former Yugoslavian provinces that are now Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia. Those are some of the toughest people in the world.
But he was in France. He was in Spain for all them years, Frank. He was a young kid, Frank. He was a kid.
Eric, hold on. He went to France. He went to Spain, yes, when he played for Real. He grew up in Slovenia most of his life until he was a 15-year-old. What do you mean? He grew up in Slovenia.
I understand that, Frank. I understand that.
All right, then. So anyway, I don't know about that, him not being able to lead because he's a European prodigy. I mean, that makes no sense to me. But anyway, I just think he's just not a leader, and by the way, leadership starts.
Listen, some people are not meant to be leaders, and he's probably
right.
an embodiment.
But when they make you the face of the Lakers organization, Eric, it's hard to not be that, because all the guys that have been the face of the Lakers organization, Eric, have been that. They have been. Magic is as good a leader as you'll ever get. Kobe, whether he's a good or bad leader, he was a leader, and LeBron's a leader. So realistically, that's not in the lineage of what Laker greats have been. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, if you put it in that perspective, I can see that. But I'm just saying.
Now, all you guys are telling me, oh, what's the next move? First of all, we'll see what the next move is. Number one, but right now, he's the guy. So we don't know what the next move is. But the move we got now is they praising him. And by the way, who got the best of the trade in the short term? Let's see. But look, everybody's killing the Mavs. And it's sad the injury bug has hit them at the wrong time. AD probably came back too soon, Eric, because he was already hurt. But, because of the trade and all the noise and what was happening in Dallas, they probably felt like they needed to rush him back, which they shouldn't have. Right?
He was hurt. He was hurt going into.
Yes, he was. Remember, he wasn't playing with the Lakers. He had the abductor issue.
So
right?
Hold on. Pause for a second. Pause. So he was hurt, right? He had the abdominal issue, right? In order for you to get
Yes,
traded,
he
you have to
did.
pass the
No,
physical.
abductor issue. Huh?
In order for you to get traded, you have to pass the physical. Right? Is that correct?
Eric, Luca Doncic was hurt too. It wasn't a injury. Eric, that's not one of the brighter things you said. If a guy has a sprained ankle, he's not. Hold on. If a guy has a sprained ankle, Eric, he's not playing. But obviously, that's an injury that's going to heal. Luca Doncic was hurt too. Both players. AD didn't have an injury that was going to prevent him from playing for the rest of the year, or a long-term injury. You take a physical to make sure you don't.
When you have chronic knee issues and the doctors detect that, right? You feel
it's not a chronic issue. You just said chronic knee issues. It's not a chronic issue.
I'm just saying.
Luca wasn't playing. AD wasn't playing.
Hold on.
That makes no sense.
Hold on.
If a guy has an injury that Eric, he had an injury that he needed to take a couple of weeks off and he was going to play. You don't flag somebody and say, I'm not going to make a trade for that. What are you talking about?
But don't you have to pass a physical?
Eric, how did Luca pass the physical? He was hurt too. If that's your argument. Luca was hurt when he came as well. Passing the physical. So, Eric, if a guy has a sprained ankle and he's out for 3 weeks, would he fail the physical and the team not make a trade for that? You're making no sense.
I mean, you can still make the trade out. I mean, those are
Eric, that makes no sense. Let's stop. That makes no sense.
So those are red flags. Those are red flags.
It's not a red flag if a guy has an injury that's going to heal in a couple of weeks. Stop, Eric.
You just said they rushed him early. They just rushed him to play.
They did. So he needed a little bit more time to heal. He doesn't have a chronic issue that's going to impact him for the rest of his career.
But now he's out. Now he's out for multiple weeks now.
So what does that mean? You don't make the trade for that reason? What are you saying? What you're saying makes zero sense.
That's a red flag. Those are red flags.
That's not a red flag. If a guy's a sprained ankle and he can't play right away, that's not a red flag?
You're talking about a sprained ankle. We're talking about something that happened, something that was going on.
Eric, can I ask you a question? If a guy sprains his ankle and he's not ready to play and he comes back too early and his ankle is not ready, he can re-hurt the ankle again or make it worse and then have to sit out more weeks. That's comparable. The guy doesn't have some chronic issue. And by the way, you think, let me ask you a question. You think the Mavs doctors, right, would have taken a look at AD, okay, and he had issues that were going to persist long-term, and they would have still traded Luca Doncic? That makes no sense.
Exactly.
Obviously, it's not something that's long-term.
Well, I mean,
come on. So, all right, let's get back to what we're talking about, right? So, if you look at,
term, he's out now.
It's not long-term. If you look at what happened in him, though, Gafford just got hurt too, right? So now they thought they had this amazing front line with Gafford, Anthony Davis, Lively. They had Powell. Powell got hurt as well. And so you talk about everything aligning negatively. Murphy's Law for that team right now is terrible. You make this trade, everybody's upset, okay? Then the guy who you traded for gets hurt. Then your center, Gafford, gets hurt. By the way, it's as bad as it gets in Dallas right now. But we're going to see a new Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is going to show you now what his leadership and greatness is. But it's a sad day because when healthy, Eric, look at the Mavs on paper. When healthy, I ask you, Kyrie, Gafford at the center, Lively off the bench, AD at the 4. You know, you got Clay, you got Christie's a good player they got from the Lakers. When healthy, Eric, okay, they may be on paper the best team in the West. When healthy.
Yeah, I mean, you got to still put them pieces together. I think, you know.
Yes, but I said on paper when healthy. Are they not as good as you get in the West? Like in a 7-game series, are you taking OKC over a healthy Maverick team?
No, you know, I'm not a believer of OKC. That's number one. You know,
right. So they may have. So realistically, let me say this: if you Jason Kidd and you Nico Harrison, right, Eric, let me just say this, okay? You have a window, which is what it is, right? Jason Kidd don't have 5 years to win a championship with Luca. The way they were currently configured, they weren't going to win a championship.
No, they were
okay.
Too small. They were too small.
And not good enough on defense.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Dallas has a chance to win in the next 1 or 2 years. If these guys stay healthy.
Yeah, that's the issue with them.
So anyway, okay, let me go to another trade, Eric. I think everybody's talking about this trade, right? The Dallas, and for obvious reasons. And by the way, Luca Doncic is the worst defensive player in the NBA. I got to say that again. Every 5 minutes, I might say that just to reinforce that point because he's embarrassingly bad. And by the way, something positive for the Lakers. I know I've been hard on Bronny James. He's not an NBA player. You're not feel about that. He had a good game the other day. Kudos to him. I think he's been playing relatively well in the G League. You understand what I'm saying? Still not an NBA player, but he's grinding it out. And by the way, seems like a great kid. I've always said that, right? And the way he's handled things graciously, etc. You know what I'm saying? So I want to shout that out. Luka Doncic is the worst defensive player in the NBA. I got to say that again. Now, E, I'm gonna tell you a trade that I think is going to be underrated thus far, but I think is going to be significant. Kyle Kuzma, okay, to the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay.
You get young, you get energy, right? Middleton was done, Eric. Yeah, Kuzma, good player, can stretch the floor, can attack the basket. It's not bad on defense, good size. I'm telling you, E, you got now Lillard, you got Kuzma on that wing, and then you got Antetokounmpo down low with the big fella Lopez hitting those jump shots. Yeah. E, that's a very dangerous team, E.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an excellent trade from Milwaukee. You know, getting Kyle Kuzma.
Man.
Now, you know, Kyle Kuzma got to come in with the right frame of mind and coming in, you know, and work and be a professional and do all the things he needs to do and stop being all that buffoonery stuff he does and all that other stuff. But if he comes in to work, they should be fine with him. I think it was a great trade. I think it was a great trade for Milwaukee.
Hey, now let's go to your bum team that you think still has a chance. Jimmy Butler pushed his way out of Miami with the Pat Riley dynamic, which is crazy, by the way, what happened with Riley and Butler. And Butler always does this. Every situation devolves into something crazy, right? Butler did it before. We talked about this all the time. He pushed his way out of Minnesota. You know, the 76ers picked Tobias Harris over him and let him go because he's the headache. Goes to Miami, he went crazy, left, right? And now this happened. So now he's with your Warriors, Eric. Yes. Do you think that trade gets the Warriors where? Are the Warriors now a championship contention team?
Now, I won't say we're a championship contending team. I think it puts us in a position where we might be maybe a 7th seed now and not a play-in team. I think it puts us in that perspective. I think it puts us there as a 7th seed, maybe a 6th seed in the West. I don't think it pushes us over the hump as being a contender, as being a legit contender, but it pushes us in 6, 7, and then you never know what happens in the playoff. Guys get hot, guys get injured, and this veteran team comes along and plays consistent basketball, and you still got Stephen Curry, so you never know. But I just think it puts them at a 6, maybe 7, in that instead of a playing game.
So is that worth it though, right? I mean, was it worth it? The guy's 35 years old. Right? Was it worth paying them the 2-year, $100+ million? Was it worth it, Eric? I mean, was it?
I mean, 2 years.
Or is that a desperate move?
No.
Or is that a desperate move?
I mean, we did need to.
Because by the way, the problem with the Warriors are twofold, right? Once the real problem is Curry, especially Draymond, are not who they were. Curry's still very good. Draymond is a shell of the player he was. So the problem that you have is the Warriors are still way too small. So there was a time when Draymond Green was small. He still is small, but he was so good defensively, and he was at a certain level offensively that you're able to get away with it. Okay, but having him and Dell Davis's son from Indiana,
yes,
is way too small, right? And you can't make it up anymore, right? With Draymond Green because he's no longer the player he was. So it's over. All you Warrior fans, you still keep trying to grab onto it's over. You had an amazing run. You're not winning anymore. And the Butler move, Jimmy Butler, that's desperation. It's over. It's over, Eric.
I don't think it's desperation. I don't think it was out of desperation. I think it was a trade that you consider because it's a 2 year, you know what I'm saying? And like you said, these guys are older, right? It's 2 years and let's see if we can make a run. Obviously we need more height. They need more height, but to help Draymond and those other guys down in the paint, we need more and we need scoring power. We need more scoring power. We We didn't have enough scoring power. Steph, playing with guys in the G League up and down.
Eric, you have no big men. Let me ask you a question.
I said that.
In the series,
I said that.
who's guarding Jokic on your team?
I just said we need to get some size, Frank. I mean,
yeah, I don't know about that one. Hey, going back for a second, what do you think about the rescinded trade? Right, Mark Williams, who's by the way decent player. The guy's always hurt. The guy's played in like 38% of his career games. Right, the rescinded trade for the Lakers, Williams for Connect, the picks, etc.
Listen, the Lakers got a gem in that kid Connect from Tennessee. I think he's a guy that the Lakers should keep, right? And then you have him involved in the trade, and then this guy he felt the reason why he didn't make it because he felt physical, right? That was the reason why.
Yes, that's a good. Well, from a Laker perspective, because the Hornets want to dispute that, which is ironic, right? Because the Hornets are clearly trying to get rid of him because the Hornets don't want him back because now they are disputing, right, to the commissioner that the Lakers failed him on the physical. Williams. By the way, Eric, the problem with Connect is I think Connect's a nice player as well, but it's the problem with Connect if you're the Lakers. He can't fit into your realm. You know why? Because you got Luca now, right, who's, on the wing, and then you got Austin Reeves, right? So Luca's your point guard right now. You got Austin Reeves and you got LeBron, right, technically speaking. The problem, Eric, is this, okay? Where does Connect fit in there? You can't start Connect over any of those guys, and let me tell you why. Because you have no defense. Could you imagine if you have Luca Doncic, Connect, and Austin Reeves? You'd be the worst defensive perimeter in the world. Yeah. And so unless you're gonna make him a 6-man, right? He don't fit your dynamic. You need bigs.
Yeah, I mean a six man will be ideal for him in that situation, right? A guy that can stretch the floor, right?
I guess.
A guy
I guess
stretch the floor, and I think me personally, I would involve Austin Reed in the trade instead of Connect. Connect is a young guy who has
no, Eric. Come on, Austin Reeves is a proven commodity, bro. Austin Reeves is a proven. He had 45 the other night.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, Austin Reeves is a young guy.
You get more for him. You get more for having him in the trade, Frank. You get more.
What? Let me ask you a question. Give more. What more does Charlotte have to offer unless you don't get LaMelo? I mean, that's who they traded with. I mean, you get more. I mean, who else you gonna get on that team? I mean, I think it is what it is. You can get more for Reeves. You're right, but in that trade, they couldn't have gotten more. And by the way,
giving up on these young players too soon. I think these young players.
No one gave up. When you said giving up, they made a trade because they needed a young big. They didn't give up on them. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration. You make a trade because you feel like somebody can better your team positionally. Mark Williams is what they need. They need a big. They don't need a wing.
I'm saying
so that doesn't mean you gave up on them.
They could have threw somebody else in there. They could have threw in another guy in there besides Connect. I mean, they could have threw another guy.
But they wouldn't have made the trade then, Eric. You got to give me some value. I mean, come on, bro.
It's Hachi.
And by the way,
is Hachimura still on? Is he still with the Lakers?
They can't give up size. They need size.
Yeah. Good point. You got a good point there.
Right. I mean, so then another big one is which is crazy. De'Aaron Fox pushed his way out of Sacramento, which is ironic because allegedly the reason why Mike Brown got fired is because he had beef with De'Aaron. Well, he was coaching him hard. That's the rumor, right? And now you get rid of a guy who's a coach of the year, right? A year or two before, I think 2 years before he's coach of the year, or a year before, for Fox. And then Fox pushes his way out, right? He pushes his way out, Fox does, and he wants to play with Victor Wembanyama. So you got Victor Wembanyama, Fox, right? That pick and roll should be crazy, athletic. You got Castle on that team now, right? You got old man Chris Paul who's still there to usher in leadership, etc. What do you think about that trade, E?
I think it's a great trade for San Antonio, right? You still got Chris Paul there, like you said, the leadership role. You got a DeAndre Fox, who's a downhill guy, right? Now you got
De'Aaron Fox, not DeAndre, but okay.
De'Aaron Fox. Then you got Wemby, pick and pop or pick and roll, right? So now you got all those options on offense, and then you got a Castle. I think like you said, we said this before. They're doing San Antonio a favor. They're doing Popovich a favor.
So, yeah, I think we talked about that before. We talked about this trade, just bringing it back up again because we just kind of closing out on the stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think they need more shooting because just so you know, I think Castle's a really good player. I like Castle's is a winning player. By the way, as an aside, Eric, I'm going to bring this up, right? So I think Castle's a winning player, right? I really like his game a lot. Eric, can I ask you a question, bro? What's wrong with Danny Hurley, bro? Like, what's wrong?
Frankie, you must be reading my mind because I was about to say that. I was just about to say that.
I got to bring this up again. Danny Hurley is a great coach, okay? And the irony is, Danny was the quiet one. I always say this, and Hurley was the more feisty of the two, right? Danny Hurley, they just beat Creighton, right? At Creighton, the fans are heckling him. He's talking to them like a kid, talking about, hey, we got 2 national championships, we get 2 rings. As he's walking off the court after, I guess, a post-game interview, some heckling fans. So he's arguing with them, 2 rings. Like, Eric, that you have to be above that, right? I mean, the immaturity that Danny Hurley has for such a high-level coach. He's the most immature, high-level coach that I've ever. Could you imagine? I always go back to my guy. Could you imagine Nick Saban walking off the field, right, telling these heckling fans how many championships and games he's won at Alabama, and bye-bye, good night, like, Eric, what's wrong with your boy Danny Hurley, dog? What's wrong with him, dog?
Let me say this about Danny Hurley. Let me say this about that.
I'm listening, bro.
And people always say, "Oh yeah, he was a quiet one." Danny has always been the guy that's always had a chip on his shoulder, right? He was overlooked as father, Hall of Fame coach, his brother, phenomenal player at Duke. So he was like, in the shadows all the time. And now he's, entrusted into the spotlight, and he does some immature stuff. We got to get better at that, Danny. You're my guy, Danny.
Yes.
I'm gonna text you tomorrow. I'll text you later on. You're my guy. Listen, we got to get better at that. For sure, we got to get better at that. But listen,
Eric, let me say this. You right about the chip on the shoulder, right? Because Hurley, the brother, played at Duke, was a McDonald's All-American level player, got drafted into the NBA, and Danny was, remember, he had problems at Seton Hall. Let me not get into the man's personal problems. Significant problems, right? And he had a chip on his shoulder because of what his brother and his father. Father's a Hall of Fame coach, right? Brother is a Hall of Fame college player.
Yes.
Okay? But Eric, at some point, right, he grinded. I respect him. St. Benedict's as a high school coach for years. Then he went to, what's the school on Staten Island, Eric? Wagner, right, got them to the NCAA tournament, then grinded, went to the mid-major level at Rhode Island, did his thing there. I mean, and then now he's at UK. But Eric, at some point, okay, he's won 2 national championships now. And he said to himself, he's no longer the black sheep in the family. Right? He's no longer that. And by the way, and his brother Bobby is about to get fired at Arizona State. He's struggling at Arizona State. Yeah. It's no, at this point, he's validated. He is. In the family's household, the father is a Hall of Fame high school coach, right? His players, ironically, were none of his players never became good pros, Eric, ironically. Not very many of them. As great of a high school coach as he was, his players were not prepared to be NBA players. They really weren't. Yeah. They really weren't. The hair, his son got hurt, got the car accident. Roger Groves is supposed to be the next Michael Jordan. What happened with him? Yeah. He had great player after great player who weren't pros. But anyway, legendary New Jersey coach, okay? Bobby Hurley at Duke, maybe one of the top 3 to 4 point guards, definitely a top 5 point guard in NCAA history, right at Duke, right? Phenomenal point guard, top 5 ever in college as a college player, right? Kenny mixed him, right? Kenny Anderson, right, shook him out of his shoes, but Bobby Hurley was a better college point guard than Kenny Anderson.
So let me going back. You say he was top 5.
But let me just say this last part. Danny got 2 rings, 2 NCAA rings back to back. Okay, he's cemented himself, right, as a great coach and great in that household. Right. Stop it at this point, Eric. Act like an adult, not like a petulant child. Now, go ahead. What were you gonna say now?
So, they play Creighton, which is located in Nebraska. Danny, you need to fix some things. Take a look in the mirror and fix some things. But listen, those fans out there in those places, in those Midwest, those fans could be, they could say some outrageous stuff to people. You know what I'm saying?
So I got a question. See, once you get so now you are geographically, like, not racist. I don't use that word because it's not about race. But like, what are you trying to say? The crazies at Duke don't. So hold on. So there you go again with this elitism. So when you go to the places like Nebraska, they're different than the crazies at Duke.
Frank,
You don't think those kids at Duke say crazy things
we
too?
know that in Utah and those places like that in the Midwest, we know those people can say some outrageous things to the players and to the family.
Well, Utah's not in the Midwest, number one. But anyway, but you don't think
wherever is that? I mean, those
you don't think so. You don't think that see, here we go again. It's elitism. So you don't think the crazies at Duke, those kids and those fans at Duke are not saying obscene things to the opposing coaches and players?
I mean, I'm pretty sure they are, but there's certain things
that's nothing to do.
There's certain things that just crosses the line, Frank. There's certain things that just cross the line.
Okay. You don't think that the fans for the Philadelphia say things?
Of course they do.
Okay, well that's not the Midwest, bro. Let's not act like the Midwest is a place where they got all these people that say crazy things. But on the East Coast, it's all good.
In Creighton, which is located in Nebraska. I'm just saying, Frank, it happened.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure when he's in other places, people say things that are offensive as well. But at some point, right, you have to be above that as a coach. You are a leader of young men. You going nah, right? That's not really appropriate.
Like I said, Danny, I'll text you a little after the show. We'll have a conversation. I'm gonna text my guy.
Yo, come on,
that's my guy. I'm gonna text him. I don't know if we're gonna talk about that, but that's my guy. I gotta,
Yeah, I get it, but you need to tell him he need to get it together. That's one. Eddie, listen, let's end it today, okay? I got to talk about this, E. Yes. Okay? Yo, you a Latino man, correct?
Yes.
Is Canelo a Latino male?
Canelo? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, right? Yo, Latino males, especially in the boxing world, machismo, they go fight the best. Is that fair?
Yes.
Yo, what's wrong with your boy Canelo, dogs? He don't want to fight nobody, man. He just want to collect checks. Nope. And by the way, and collecting checks is great. I don't want to mess with the man's money. But Eric, Canelo is the boringest superstar boxer in the history of the world. There's never been a guy that's been the money guy. And I don't know why he's the money. These people, the Middle Eastern guys are paying him the money. The Saudi guys, he getting Saudi money. He's not a draw. No one, I don't know anybody who's running to their TVs to watch Canelo fight. Right? We talk boxing here too. And so now Canelo's going to fight some warm-up fight, and then he's going to fight Crawford, who walks around probably 30 pounds lighter than him.
Yes.
Right? Like, explain to me what your boy Canelo's doing.
No, first of all, Frank, boxing has become, it's all about, cashing in on the checks, Frank. It's not.
And Floyd Mayweather started that. It's
not the boxing
Let's say
we grew up on where we watch fighters fight. Especially
Especially
Mexican fighters, right? You had
that's what I'm telling you.
Salvador Sanchez, you had Chavez, you had all these great Mexican
Chavez, one of the greatest ever.
You had all these great Mexican
Chavez is one of the greatest ever, E.
And those Mexican fighters were known to have brawls. Like they used to fight, right? But in today's boxing, Frank, it's become entertainment. You got what's my man Jake Paul doing all these exhibition fights and all this stuff. It's become a joke. So I don't want to say it's Canelo's fault, but he just falls in line with what's going on in boxing today, right? Nobody wants to fight. Everybody wants a big payday. So he falls right in line with that. You know what I'm saying? So it's not his fault. It's not his fault, but he's in the...
It is his fault, Eric. Because at some point, Eric, let me say this. At some point...
Frank, isn't ever...
At some point...
It is what it is with boxing in today.
But at some point, Eric, he's made a lot of money, right?
Yes.
Like, we know that. And I get about getting to your bag. I would never, ever, ever. But at some point, there's the integrity of the sport as well, right? And at some point, you want legacy, okay?
Yeah,
once you make the money.
Who's out there, though, Frank? Who's out there for him? Who's out there for him? Besides Benavidez. That's a fight he should take. Besides that, who's out there for him? That he can cement himself and say this is...
Didn't Bivoli beat him?
Well, okay. But that's another different weight class. That's different weight class. That's not 168.
But go get him. Don't go who beat you already. Don't go down and fight Crawford. And by the way,
he's not
Crawford.
He's not going down in weight. They're fighting at 168.
Eric, Crawford, though, let me say this, Crawford, right, is a fighter that people love Crawford. Pound for pound, all this garbage. Yeah. Crawford didn't have a lot of punching power in his weight class. Okay? He's a guy that wore you down and then maybe knocked you out later. Fair enough?
Yeah.
What kind of power? What kind of power you think you're gonna have going up to fight?
He have no power. He have no power.
I mean, come on.
But what I'm saying,
Canelo gonna walk him down and walk right through his punches. Eric.
What I'm saying is
that's a joke.
That's what I'm saying. Crawford is looking for a legacy fight because he really didn't fight nobody. And when he was at 147, he really didn't fight nobody, right? Right? He fought David better. He fought what's the guy? His brother, Benavidez' brother. I think his name is David Benavidez. Or he fought him. That was a
fight. What hurt him? Eric, what hurt him is what's the fighter who had the accident? Errol Spence. Errol Spence. That was the fight, Eric. The Errol Spence fight. That was supposed to be the fight. But by the time,
that was supposed to be the fight.
But by the time Errol Spence got to him, he had the car accident and he was a shell of who he was as a boxer.
And at that weight, Errol Spence had trouble making that weight. He had trouble making that weight, so he was drained. You could see it.
But Eric, but the accident, he's never been the same fighter.
Accident, of course.
Right? Of course. Like Eric, that would have been a trilogy potentially, right? One, Crawford wins one, Spence wins one, and then we see the third one. Yeah. Like that would have been his trilogy fight. You're right. He's looking for legacy, but we'll see, Eric.
I'm just saying for Crawford, it's him fighting Canelo is a legacy fight for him. Right, he's a guy.
Of course,
he's a guy that's 2-time undisputed champion at 2 weight divisions. Right, so there's nothing for him. What's out there for him as far as boxing right now? There's nothing for him.
I know for Crawford, and it's a money fight for him too.
Of course,
he's gonna make the most money. He's gonna make the most money he probably ever made. And if he wins this fight, it's a legacy fight. I agree. My issue is not with Crawford all day. Canelo, what you doing?
Listen. Like I said before, Frank, boxing has become an entertainment, right? Where guys are now just looking to cash out. If they're not looking to fight the big fights, they're not looking to promote those big fights. And it is.
It's a joke.
Yes, it is a joke. Right? We got Jake Paul. We got Tyson coming back from fighting, making $20 million.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
You know what I'm saying? So this is what
that was sad to watch. But Tyson got paid. Hey, so listen. As we always do, I'm going to give you the floor and shout out your Dominican brothers and sisters out there in the marketplace doing well. I got to shout out a Dominican man. That boy, Carl Anthony Towns, is doing his thing right now, boy. He got the Knicks on one. He hooping. But anyway, go ahead, yo. The floor is yours.
So I want to give a shout out to the entire Dominican baseball team that just won La Serie del Caribe. They just beat Mexico. Mexico was going into the championship round undefeated, beating Puerto Rico, beating all these teams, Venezuela and Dominican Republic, I think they were 2-2 going into the championship game, beat Mexico, and Albert Pujols was the manager. So shout out to all those guys that participated in the Serie del Caribe and bringing home the trophy to the Dominican Republic. Albert Pujols being a manager, his first time being a manager. So shout out to those guys for winning La Serie del Caribe. To all my guys.
All right. Shout out. All right, E, that's all good. As always, it's been real. Except for when you talked about Anthony Davis should have been flagged and not traded because he had an injury that was going to keep him out a couple of weeks. I'm not sure where that came from. But anyway, E, like, subscribe, keep showing love.
Yes.
We're going to keep going. We out.